Hi guys, Harry Finn here. Today I'm going to be doing a video about HDR, that's high dynamic range, and processing that on your computer. But first of all, I'm just going to show you quickly how to set it up on your camera. Now the camera I'm using here today is my new Panasonic Lumix G2. It's a compact system camera, CSC camera, and it's basically a smaller version of most of the mainstream digital SLRs you'll find out there. It is a digital SLR in the sense that it has interchangeable lenses, full manual controls on the back and on the top. Flip out touchscreen is also a bonus on this model. Basically it's smaller than digital SLR in terms of its body size and the lens, which use a micro 4/3 mount, but there are lots of different adapters you can get quite cheaply in fact, and Olympus, I know for a fact, do quite a lot of lenses that fit the 4/3 or 4 mount adapters, which you can pick up for these cameras for between £30 to £40 if you look carefully online, and you'll be able to pick up a pretty good deal on different lenses. Basically I picked that one up because it's not only a very good entry to middle camera in terms of what it can do function wise in the market, it also rates very highly against a lot of the entry level digital SLRs. So considering that, yes, I'm a pretty amateur photographer at the moment, it gives me the ability to, in the future, be able to keep the same camera body and just swap on a different lens for the situation that I'm in. And that's something that's really key, because obviously it's going to cost quite a lot of money anyway. Anyone that does have a nice camera, a nice digital SLR camera, will know that it can be very expensive maintenance wise and buying up the new lenses. So it's something that I'm trying to keep as cheap as possible without sacrificing on quality. Anyway, on to HDR. An HDR comprises of minimum of normally 2 images of different exposures, and the exposure is the level of contrast and brightness basically on the image that you've got. What you're doing with auto bracketing, which is a feature I'm going to just show you quickly on this camera, is it allows you to take between, on this camera it will allow you to take between 3 and 7 pictures of different exposure levels. What you can then do in process in Photoshop, or another program which is free I believe called Photomatrix. If you don't have Photoshop, Photomatrix will do HDR processing for you, and I've been told it's pretty effective and pretty good at that. If not, Photoshop CS5 has an HDR Pro merge, which I'll be showing you in a second. Basically, you take those different images, say we've taken 3 images, one at a normal exposure, one at a negative exposure, so it will look darker, and one at a positive exposure, which will look brighter. We basically combine those together in Photoshop and create a very surreal kind of effect. Not too surreal that it looks maybe a bit too far beyond what we were looking to capture in the image, but it enhances some of the colours, makes them more vibrant, and this works really well with some landscape shots of the green fields, beach to sea shots. It can even work really well in like the urban jungle of cities. I say urban jungle, but you know what I mean. The big grey towering buildings, and getting a nice perspective on that can look really effective because there's not so many different colour changes. You can get some real nice dynamic lighting on those pictures that use buildings in them. So it's quite an interesting thing to have a play around with, and you will definitely find that some of them are not very good at all. You can't take an HDR image of everything because they just don't suit. It just won't work, and I've put a link in the description to an album of some of my HDR attempts. Some of them are definitely better than others, and I hope you'll be able to see that. But to start off, I definitely recommend looking at some taking some landscape pictures for HDR effects, because you'll get the best results out of them very easily, as Photoshop and even Photomatrix do a lot of the work for you without you having to play around with all the settings. Anyway, I'll just try and get this to focus on the screen a little bit so you can actually see it. There we go. Right, so you're going to go on your camera, and again, it doesn't have to be a big fancy one like this one. Even the compact cameras, the really nice slim ones, will don't go into sleep mode, please. There we go. Will have this feature. 9 times out of 10, they'll have an auto bracketing feature, and it will look, if you can see it, It's a little plus in the top left and a minus bottom right, and it's a diagonal split between white and black on that image, and that's what you want to look out for. But it's normally called auto bracketing or auto exposure. So anyway, we'll just click across into those settings, and what we have here is a step and a sequence. Now, most of your slim cameras, your compact slim cameras, will only be able to do a step of 3 anyway. This one I think can go up to 7. It can do 7 different layers and input them together. The sequence is just the order in which it's going to take the picture. So for example, the first picture is going to be at 0, which is normal exposure. The second picture is going to be at a negative exposure. The third one is going to be at a positive exposure. Combining those 3 together makes the HDR image at the end of it. So what we'll do is we'll just hit enter on those settings and confirm that. And go back onto this. Now my camera on the top dial up here has a separate setup for auto bracketing, has its own auto bracket mode. So I've flipped into that, and on the screen over here, although you can't see it, there is a little icon here, and it's solid at the moment. So the first picture I take, mine does it in single pictures. Okay, so that's taken a normal one. So the next picture we take is going to be at a negative exposure, and the third one is going to be at a positive exposure, so it's going to be brighter. Okay, I'm not going to use those because they won't look very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch on to my Mac, and I'll show you some test HDR images that I've taken previously. I'll show you the combining process and the final output. Okay, see you guys in a sec. Hi guys, onto the Mac now. So I'm just going to be showing you how to process 3 images together taken at a normal, negative and positive exposure, carrying on from the setup I showed you from the camera. I've dragged in my 3 images that I've taken. So there's my normal, there's my negative, and there's my positive one. So what we're going to do in Photoshop is just open up those 3 and go to File, Automate, and Merge to HDR Pro. Now there is a free program you can use called Photo Matrix, I believe. If you just type that into Google, you should be able to find that, and that will do the HDR process as well. And I've heard that it's a pretty good program to use as well. But for the purposes of this, I'm using Adobe Photoshop CS5. I think CS4 had a merged HDR as well, so you should be able to do that with these last 2 ones. If not, have a look at Photo Matrix. So in the Merge to HDR Pro first screen, we're going to select the source files. Now, as we've opened up our 3 here, all we need to do is click Add Open Files. Otherwise, you can browse through them from Files or select from Folder. Now I've got our 3 selected in there, we're going to make sure that the Attempt to automatically align source images is ticked. Basically, if your camera works like mine does, and you have to take the pictures one after the other, some compact cameras actually, their auto bracketing does it all in one. So you press the shutter once, and it takes 1 at normal, 1 at negative, and 1 at positive, and then lets you
It's 7 o'clock.
But if you've moved during taking those pictures, make sure that that's definitely ticked, as that will definitely help you out. Hit OK, and it will start the processing. And basically what happens after when we get to the next screen is that it will give you a load of options and a lot of Photoshop templates as well to create an HDR effect. The HDR effect doesn't work with all images. I'm a bit apprehensive about it with this flower because it may overexpose some of the red colour that we get, so we have to tone that down a little bit. But again, as I've said, it works really well with some landscapes, and I'll quickly show you in a sec. We'll do this process, and then I'll quickly show you some of the HDR images I've taken in the past. They're not all that great, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of the different areas that you can look at when testing out this effect. Okay, so it has loaded up with this, and that doesn't look great at all, to be fair, on preset custom. So let's have a look at the options we've got. We've got flat, monochromatic artistic, monochromatic high contrast, low contrast, monochromatic, more saturated, photorealistic high contrast, photorealistic low contrast, photorealistic saturated, surrealistic high contrast, surrealistic low contrast, and just surrealistic. Now for most of my HDR images I use just plain old surrealistic and then just play around with the settings. And as you can see, it's definitely brought out a lot more detail in the flower than the original in terms of the depth of shadow and highlights it's applied. And we've got all kinds of settings here that we can use, and you want to make sure that your mode is on local adaptation, otherwise I think sometimes it comes stock at set just exposure and gamma and doesn't look that great. If you take it onto highlight compression, it doesn't actually have any options for HDR toning. It's pretty useless on that. Flicking through those, you can see that none of them really give you that much flexibility, but local adaptation does, as it allows you to control all the different areas. From the radius of the edge glow, just tone that down, and you should be able to see how that affects it. So I'll push that up again, set it up to maximum 500. You've got the different strength levels, so take that down a bit, and there you are, you can see the effect disappearing almost. Again, it's good to play around with these settings because you will get to create your own custom image then. I think we'll push the gamma up a little bit to get rid of a bit of the bright red, and bring the exposure down just a little bit, just to get rid of that bold red there. That'll do. And again, you've got shadow control, detail control, everything that you would normally have, and highlights and also vibrance and saturation. So if we push that to 100, see it fills in a bit more of the red. If we drop it down, you're going to get some interesting colour shifts there. But again, it's all about the different colour tones and applying them to different areas of the picture that can make some really great HDR images. So once you're done with that, hit enter, or there's a save button down there, but my Mac bar is in the way of that, unfortunately. But yeah, just hit enter and it will start the merged HDR process once you're happy. And actually, while that's doing that, I'll just show you some HDR images that I think I've got on my desktop. Let's have a look then. HDR. Okay, so this is one I just took of a field sky above. They're not all that great, some of these, but hopefully you're able to see that the corn actually gets some really nice lighting and shadows off it. And that's what HDR is all about. It's about the dynamic layers that you can apply with the lighting and shadows. I've got another one here that I took at the sea. I think that looks quite nice. It does have depending on your setup, HDR can make some really nice water pictures as well. So don't be afraid to take some pictures of that. I'll show you a bad example. Here's a picture of my desk that I tried putting in. Doesn't look it doesn't look as bad as I thought it did originally, but it still doesn't look that great either. So you want to be a bit selective about the objects or the pictures that you use. Let's have a look at one from my Austria trip. This one I quite like. This one you've got it's really darkened up the clouds above, but the lighting plays nicely off the water here and off these buildings, and I'm really quite happy with the way that one turned out. And let's show you one more. Let's have a look at this one. Here we are. Yeah, I quite like this one. There's a bit of distortion up here with the lighting, but I could crop that down really, and not worry about that. But the main part of it, the river water looks, I think, really nice, and the way that the snow kind of merges all together gives it a really nice. Again, it is meant to be surreal. Definitely a surreal look to it, but I think that the lighting off that works really, really well. Right, so let's pop back into Photoshop because it's finished processing that image, and there you are. There's our final image. So that is that is positive. That is the negative image. That's our original image, and now here's our HDR merged image. There we are. So it's definitely a different take on it, whether you like it or not. I'm in two minds about it. I do like the detail it's helped to bring out in some of the leaves there, and I've got a whole folder of images that I might have a play around with. So if I do have any better ones, I'll put them up on my blog, harryfinn.co.uk/blog. In fact, there's some pictures up there now of a recent, of just some pictures I've been taking, some macro shots, just out in the garden, out taking some pictures of the flowers, just to test out my new camera really. I haven't had a great deal of a chance with the workload I've been trying to shift at university. But I'm now pretty much finished for the summer, so there will be videos coming thick and fast, I hope, for you to use, and they'll be across a wide range of topics. So there'll be another one out this week on just some basic jQuery effects, some toggling, some sliding in, sliding out, fade in, so some basic jQuery animation that you can use. And next week I will probably try and do another Photoshop tutorial, and probably another web-based one as well. If you've got any suggestions about tutorials that you'd like me to do, please don't put them in the comments box. PM me directly or email me, harry@harryfinn.co.uk. There's also a contact form that you can use on my website, harryfinn.co.uk/contact.php, I think. If not, it's in the navigation bar anyway. Yeah, if you can use that directly, it just helps me separate them out. Yeah, any topic that you want me to cover from across photography, web design, or a bit of Photoshop graphic design stuff, I'm more than happy to do. And yeah, please comment, rate and subscribe. Cheers guys.